First to the push for gender quotas in the Liberal Party. You can either have a meritocracy or you can have a quota system. You can't have both. If the Liberal Party wants to morph into another version of the Labor Party, then they are welcome to the electoral annihilation that will follow. The simplistic notion that more women means an improved culture is challenged by one look at the Labor ranks. And let's not forget, the three key people who are said to have failed Brittney Higgins are all female. 2 female ministers and a female chief of staff. You would have thought we'd be more advanced as a society by this stage than to judge people by their genitalia. But the same people who tell us gender is fluid and a social construct want hard and fast gender quotas for Parliament. But why stop there? Why shouldn't we also introduce religious, ethnic and sexual orientation quotas too, to make sure Parliament House truly reflects the wider society? Labor have had gender quotas for years, and yet there's no shortage of leftist sexism in this country. I see and hear it every day, as do other Conservative women. Ask Nicole Flint why she's leaving Parliament. Ask Peter Credlin about the misogynistic abuse she copped and still cops to this day. And Labor's quotas haven't exactly seen them succeed at the ballot box. They have lost 7 of the last 9 federal elections. Why the Liberal Party would want to follow in their misguided footsteps is beyond me. Nothing good comes from Conservatives pandering to the left. The electorate doesn't like it, the base certainly don't like it, but that's not why it should be resisted. It should be resisted because it's wrong. So-called positive discrimination is still discrimination, whether it's in the form of quotas or affirmative action. It may be well-intentioned, but it always comes with undesired consequences, including undermining minorities who won their roles due purely to their ability. Gender quotas damage morale and undermine the women who got there on merit. As I said earlier, you can either have a meritocracy, where the very best candidate is selected, or you can have quotas. You can't have both. Now, one Liberal woman who is speaking out against quotas is Victorian Liberal MP Bev McArthur, who wrote this week that gender quotas are disingenuous and insulting. She also wrote, the rush to introduce gender quotas is in response to the appalling behaviour revealed in the federal parliament. This week is a knee-jerk response and a mistake. Bev McArthur joins us now on the Friday Showdown. Bev, tell me why you called the quota system simplistic and a form of gender tokenism.
Because I think what we need are the best people possible to enter Parliament. And just because we've had bad behaviour in the federal Parliament, this knee-jerk response to solve a problem of bad behaviour by suggesting quotas of equal numbers of women is going to be the solution, I think simplistic at best.
Bev, can I ask you, in your party, women make up just 25% of your parliamentary ranks and the blokes make up about 75% of your parliamentary ranks. Does that mean that men in the Liberal Party are just simply better than the women?
No, Nicholas, it doesn't. It means that more women do need to put their names forward, but I would have thought this toxic sort of atmosphere at the moment, perpetrated by some for crass political reasons, Nicholas, is not helping women of any political persuasion put their name forward. And look what happened to Nicole Flint in South Australia. That wasn't about gender. That was just pure politics. Some on the left, including GetUp, wanted to target Nicole Flint for their own reasons. Not about gender, but about politics. And often what happens in political parties is that women and men in those political parties fight, not like I would suggest they should on the battle of ideas, but on the battle of personalities. And, one of the most talented women that sits opposite me on the Labor side is Jane Garrett. Now, she was completely garroted by Daniel Andrews and is not able to fulfil, obviously, what is the full potential of a woman of great talent. So she sits there, while others, perhaps for more crass political reasons, are on the front bench. It's about politics.
Well, yes, we've seen the Jobs Minister keep his job whilst the female health minister was thrown under the bus because of the hotel quarantine fiasco. And Jane Garrett, she was the Emergency Services Minister, doing a very fantastic job, I would have thought, and I say that as a Conservative in this state, trying to stand up to the militant unions. And your party, Nicholas, stood with the unions, and another talented woman was, again, thrown under the bus. Now, Bev, you said that there's a number of now male Liberal and National Party politicians supporting gender quotas. Do you think there's any chance they'll give up their safe seats so you can have a few more women elected?
Well, I'd like to see all these men, Nicholas included. He's not there, but I'm presuming you don't want to seat Nicholas. You're more than happy to have a woman fill a position that you might like. If they think this is vitally important, and we all do, we want more women, we want people of all sorts of backgrounds and talents to go into the parliament at both the state and federal level. If they think this is going to be the panacea to bad behaviour, then I suggest they do stand aside in their safe seats, because there's no point in pre-selecting women for marginal or Labor seats, safe Labor seats, because they'll go out with the tide, won't they? They'll lose their seats, and frequently they get replaced by men at the election box. And if we took this to its logical conclusion, we'd have to overturn election results, wouldn't we? If a man defeats a woman at the ballot box, should we say, well, that's going to mess up the gender balance in the parliament? So sorry, Nicholas, you'll have to just stand aside, and we're putting Susie in. Is that how we're going to go if we go down this path? And where do we end with a quota? Perhaps, we should have equal numbers of young and old. I mean, I'm in that category. Should we have equal numbers of people from different ethnic backgrounds? We should definitely.
Well, why not, Nicholas? I mean, there's hardly. Are there any people from Indian backgrounds? A lot of lefties think I'm Indian, and they pepper me with that sort of abuse. Again, if you're going to get...
They should know of your proud Persian heritage,
They
Rita.
should, but nothing wrong with being Indian. But we've got quite a significant Indian population who do very well in this country, but they don't have representation in Parliament. Should we have quotas for that? Ethnic background, quotas for religious background? I mean, where will it stop, Nicholas?
Well, I mean, look, I'm sorry, Rita, and with the greatest respect, Beverly, I'm sorry to you as well. I mean, these arguments that you've been rolling out tonight, they're theoretically nice, but they just don't cut it in the real world. I mean, we've been hearing the arguments from the Liberal Party about more women needing to stand up for over a decade now, and the percentage of Liberal women in the parliamentary ranks is just not rising. The fact is, quotas work. We know this because we've seen it in the Labor Party. If you go back to the 1990s,
and you haven't won many elections.
If you go back to the 1990s, you'll find that the Liberal Party and the Labor Party had roughly 20% of women in their parliamentary ranks. Fast forward 20 plus years, with a quota system, now the Labor Party has over 40% of women in its parliamentary ranks, and the Liberal Party is still stuck around 20%. And it is also a fact, Rita, that you get better decision making when you have diversity around the decision making table. And maybe if the Liberal Party had a few more women around the table when they were making decisions in the federal parliament, we wouldn't have seen the awful things we've seen happen in the ranks of the federal Liberal Party recently. Women being raped, people masturbating on desks, parliamentarians trolling women in their electorates. This comes out of a culture that is unsympathetic to women. Now, if you had more women at the decision-making table, you'll get a kinder and gentler politics towards women.
It works in the Labor Party. It doesn't work.
Nicholas.
Yeah. Now, Bev, I've just got one question I've got to ask you, Bev. Nicholas, Sorry, go
I
on,
just
Bev.
want to know if Nicholas thinks it was a good idea that Daniel Andrews called me racist because I thought people should do tests before they hire cars to go down the Great Ocean Road, where 20% of our accidents are caused by international drivers. Is that acceptable, Nicholas?
Look, I don't know the context in which those things were said, but I think calling somebody a racist is something that should never be done lightly. So I hope the Premier was very considered before he made such a serious allegation. But I also want to pick up on this point about meritocracy. I mean, I don't remember anybody saying that Penny Wong or Tanya Plibersek or Claire O'Neill were not seriously talented people. So this argument about, you can't have quotas and meritocracy, of course
then they
you
should be
can.
elected because
Of
they're
course
seriously
you
talented
can.
people.
That's just a nonsense argument,
Well,
Rita.
no, it is not
Again,
a nonsense
might
argument.
sound good in a
You
high
are
school
saying-
debate, but doesn't cut it here in the real world.
No, I'm sorry, Nicholas. Again, like pretty much 95% of what you say, it is pure projection. What you're suggesting is very much an adolescent argument where you're wanting someone's gender, something they have zero control over, to determine whether they're selected or not, rather than their ability, their experience, the likelihood of success. If Penny Wong and Tanya Plibersek are as talented as you say, they can get selected on merit. They don't need to have a quota and tick a box to get selected. But I just want to ask Bev one last question. We're hearing a lot here about we need more women in the Liberal ranks. It's absolutely essential to improve the culture of the place and make better decisions. But you would know as a Conservative woman, when you do put your hand up, when you do get elected, the absolute vile abuse you cop from the left, and there is no sisterhood, there is no media, bulk of the media coming to your defence and putting a stop to it or calling out the abuses. Tell us about what impact that has, and is that scaring off potential women from putting up their hand and saying, I want to be a part of this?
Well, absolutely, Rita, and I've certainly received it, and I don't take issue with the Premier particularly for calling me racist. That's politics. He can play the man. I prefer to play the ball, actually. But, I'm on a social media inquiry at the moment, and many have raised the issue of the abuse women in particular get in social media. Now, frequently it comes as a result of politics from the left, Get Up, etc. I stand with Dan. I've had them trolling me. So, look, politics is a tough world. But, Tanya Plibersek, you raised her name. She said she had no respect for the Prime Minister. Is it okay for a woman to say they have no respect for the Prime Minister, or is it's just not okay for a man to do that? Fair's fair here. We've all got to be respectful for one another, and if we've got bad behaviour occurring in the workplace, then something has to be done about it. I don't think suggesting that gender quotas are going to be the solution for people being disrespectful and behaving badly when they're in a workplace. How does that work? We should make sure the workplaces are places of work, not social interaction that actually lead to destructive behaviour.
Or solo sex acts.